You stand in the shadowed courtyard of a fortress, the air thick with the acrid bite of smoke and scorched iron. It is 1218, and the city of Otrar teeters on the brink of oblivion. Before you, a man convulses in agony, not the raw bellow of a warrior, but a frail, liquid wail, as if his very essence is liquefying from within. For iron-gripped soldiers pin his thrashing limbs to the unyielding stone. His body arches like a bowstring drawn too taut. Looming above, another figure tilts a gleaming bronze crucible with deliberate grace. Molten silver cascades forth, a radiant thread of liquid fire, hypnotic in its shimmer, pouring unerringly into the prisoner's left eye socket. No splash, no mercy, it seeps, invasive and intimate. His frame locks rigid, jaws unhinging in a silent rictus. The scream dissolves into a bubbling choke, drowned by the sizzle of superheated flesh. The stench erupts, charred meat laced with molten metal and an eerie, caramelized sweetness. Then, a subtle crack, his cranium yields with a moist, hollow pop, like overripe fruit splitting under thumb. Wisps of steam hiss from his ruined orifices, carrying the faint tang of boiled marrow. He slumps, lifeless, a hollowed vessel. You have borne witness to the unmaking of Inalchuq, governor of Otrar, architect of his own doom. His sin? The slaughter of a Mongol trade caravan and the plunder of its riches, envoys dispatched under the sacred banner of Genghis Khan. This was no clash of steel in the open field, it was a prologue etched in agony, a harbinger of the storm to come. When the great Khan's wrath finally engulfed the Khwarezmian Empire, it devoured over 1 million souls, raised cities to whispers of dust, and severed bloodlines like brittle reeds. And it ignited right here, in this blood-soaked yard, with rivers of silver and echoes of the damned. From 1206 to 1368, the Mongol Empire swelled to devour 24 million square kilometers, an expanse dwarfing the fever dreams of Rome or the lightning raids of Alexander. They did not merely claim territory, they alchemized dread into a blade sharper than any scimitar. Yet the spectacle you just endured, the searing pour, the fractured dome, the profane hush, was a kindness, a velvet glove over the iron fist. Inalchuq was no petty thief, he stewarded the Silk Road's western threshold, the vital nexus where eastern silks kissed western gold, all under the Khan's unyielding aegis. In 1218, a caravan of 450 merchants, laden with gems that could ransom kingdoms, crossed his gates. Paranoia twisted his gaze, he branded them spies, seized their bounty, and fed their lives to the sword. Severed heads crowned spikes along Otrar's battlements, a grotesque garland of defiance. Genghis Khan dispatched 3 envoys, voices of reason laced with steel, demanding restitution. The Shah of Khwarezm answered with barbarism, 2 beheaded, the 3rd shorn of his beard, a ritual humiliation that scorched deeper than any flame, and dispatched like a broken cur. To slight the Khan was to court oblivion. 6 months hence, the Mongol host descended, a locust swarm of hooves and arrows. After 5 months of unrelenting siege, they breached the walls and unearthed Inalchuq cowering amid grain sacks in a tower granary. The Persian chronicler Javani immortalized the reckoning, the Mongols reclaimed the pilfered silver, forged it into white-hot retribution, and exacted repayment through his visage. For excruciating minutes unfolded. The torrent claimed his eye first, a blistering invader that gnawed past orbit into sinus caverns, vaporizing soft tissues in explosive fury. Fluid swelled, pressure mounted, a volcanic forge within, until his skull capitulated in a symphony of fractures. The ears proved narrower infernos, silver threading inward to blister eardrums and stalk the brain's fragile throne. Deafness cloaked him before death's shroud, blindness before silence. He writhed for 2 minutes, a marionette of torment, then stilled. On the 3rd, ragged breaths persisted, silver rivulets tracing his cheeks like argent tears of contrition. His corpse lay exposed for 3 days, a sermon in decay. When at last they stirred it, his head thudded leaden against stone, dense now, gravid with the weight of his avarice. This was equity incarnate, pilfer from the Khan's merchants, and perish by your plunder. Every Silk Road wayfarer who beheld Otrar's gates absorbed the edict, etched in bone and blister. But mercy's veil thinned for the highborn. For Khwarezmian nobles who echoed Inalchuk's treason met fate's eclipsing mere melting. Reserved for royalty alone, lest noble ichor profane the soil, their end demanded only coarse wool and steeds of inexorable patience. In Vision 1221, dust-choked plains beyond a fallen citadel. 3 generals, architects of rebellion, are not bound, but sewn into vast felt carpets, needles plucking through fabric and fear alike. One commences his dirge ere the final stitch seals his tomb, foresight birthing hysteria. They curl him fetal, limbs crushed to chest, muzzle mashed to knees, the wool devours motion, breath, and sanity. Muffled pleas seep like smoke from a sealed flue. Then, the carpets are strewn flat, and the cavalry advances, not in thunderous charge, but a measured procession, hooves clipping earth like metronomes of malice. The first pass yields, ribs bowing, not yet splintering, expelling breath in a whoosh of compressed despair. The second, third, compression mounts, a vice of flesh and fiber. By the 10th, architecture crumbles, ribs cascade like felled timber, each inhalation a bayonet's kiss. Rashid al-Din, the Mongol court historian, decreed this right for the exalted alone, blood unspilled, lest the earth curse the conquerors. 15 to 30 minutes of calibrated ruin, femurs shatter like dry tinder, pelvis pulverizes into gravel, spine telescopes link by link. The cranium endures, a cruel sentinel, registering every orchestral snap while the cocoon denies flight. One general clung to twilight for 23 minutes. Unrolled at journey's end, his gaze pierced the void, unblinking, his maw brimmed with the tide of ruptured vitals. Pristine paradox, no lacerations, no crimson libations, merely obliteration, bloodless and baroque. If cued second, the prelude was perdition, the prelude of splintering siblings, their laments dissolving under the cadence of carnage. Anticipation was the true inquisitor, fraying nerves before the first treadfall. Such intimate reckonings paled against larceny from the imperial coffers. For that blasphemy, fire and flood conspired in ritual ablution, a cauldron vast as a sarcophagus, simmering in Karakoram's heart. 2 Chinese taxmen, gluttons for a fistful of filched silver, faced no tribunal, only the brew. The vessel brimmed with chill water, enthroned above a birch blaze kindled at first light. No haste shadowed the right, the inaugural offender hovered, inverted, as guards metered his descent, feet foremost, a sacrament of scald. Toes kissed the meniscus, tepid yet treacherous, pink blooms erupted on skin like dawn's blush. Calves submerged, a deliberate dwell, heat ascending in insidious waves. Giovanni's quill spared no stroke, by minute 3, integument sloughed from soles like sodden vellum, tinting the bath to roseate haze. The bouquet? Stewed sinew and ferrous bite, a miasma to curdle the gut. Thighs plunged next, his ululations devolved to beastly howls, larynx fraying on the pyre of his own vapor. Minute 5, silence, not surcease, steam had cauterized his cords, muting the mime of misery. Eyes bulged, sentient sentinels to the inferno. Full immersion followed, the cauldron convulsing into frenzy. 20 seconds of submerged spasm, then languor, cessation. 8 to 12 minutes total, a boiled revenant hauled forth, epidermis absent in swaths, remnants pallid and fissured, orbs stewed to opacity in their casements. The husk dangled 3 days, didactic decay, while its twin observed from a wicker vigil. On the third dawn, the sequel scalded in the selfsame vat. No vendetta, but liturgy, theft fouled the spirit, flame purged, flood laundered. Post, 1232, peculation in those reaches withered like autumn grass, dread's dividend. These were soliloquies of suffering, solitary symphonies. But when wrath scaled to civic canvas, terror transcended the personal, birthing beacons visible from the horizon's lip. 3 miles from Nishapur, 1221, the charnel reek clawed the wind, a prelude to revelation. Then, it loomed, a ziggurat of skulls, 20 feet of ossuary ambition, hewn not from quarried rock but human harvest. The city had slain Tekucher, Genghis's cherished son-in-law, amid its defiant stand. Conquest's daughter presided over the requiem, household by household, the populace, man, woman, child, dragged to boulevards for the harvest. Giovanni tallied 1.7 million vanished, truth may have it, yet the toll drowned rivers in red. The heads? Catalogued relics. Engineers orchestrated them into tiered pyramids, grids of geometric dread beyond the ramparts, each echelon tapering skyward. Limeclay mortar bound the macabre masonry, arresting rot for seasons. Every 10th dome bore a splinter tag, etched tallies amid the tomb, bureaucracy's cold kiss on apocalypse. These cranial colossi sentineled 3 to 5 years, phantoms on the Silk Road. Pilgrims spied them leagues off, a spectral skyline. Some crowns retained tresses, braids rigid as obsidian, beards caked in sepia dust. The effluvium? A summer's ride away on sweltering zephyrs, a miasma to sour the soul. Intentional architecture, post-Nishaper, capitulations surged 70-fold across Persia. Resistance? Your legacy, layered in lime and legacy. Giovanni unveils a deeper shadow, select pyramids entombed the quick at core, a noble, interred alive as substrate. Shoved to the sump, then bricked in vivo, cranium upon cranium, the edifice ascended in auditory torment. The captive's plaints persisted hours, perchance a day, smothered symphonies under cranial canopy. Silence sanctified completion, the base, blessed, by breath's betrayal. Thrice at Nishaper this rite invoked, no frenzy, but formula, a psyop forged from the fallen, propaganda perpetual, olfactory oracle air ocular assault. Industrial inferno, yet impersonal. For fractures in fraternal forge, betrayal by blood oath kin, the lash was laceratingly bespoke. He sprawls prone, lashed to a yew log, Jamukha, once Temujin's Anda, sworn sibling in the cradle of steppes. As youths, they enacted the Anda vow, knucklebones swapped, souls entwined in dual tabernacle. They stalked prey, braved blizzards, huddled 'neath shared hides against the frost's fawn. Ambition's acid eroded the bond, 2 decades of fratricide ensued till his warband's treason delivered him trust. No plea for prolongation, but propriety in perishing, bestow a noble exit, he implored, unspilled upon the loam. The secret history of the Mongols enshrines it, a bloodless bow to buried fealty. Genghis pondered, eyes like polished obsidian, then summoned the log. Retribution mirrored rupture, proportionate poetry. Stranger's perfidy? A blade's brisk kiss. Kin's? A vivisection of trust. The headsman wields a broadsword, incising from nape to lumbar nadir, dermis rent, adipose adrift, muscle mantle exposed. Crimson cascades bilateral. A lancet follows, insinuated subdermal, flaying in languid strips. The schlick is sodden, relentless, as sinew yields. Vertebrae gleam alabaster, cord veiled in gossamer, coste cantilevered. Jamukha endures aware, dorsal dearth of vessels delays the dark, vitality lingers 5, 8, 10 heartbeats in exposure's gale. He persisted 7 minutes. For in feudal oratory, lips laboring sans lexicon. 5th, tremors ebb, though orbs affix the firmament. Dissolution whispers, twixt 6th and 7th, no crescendo, merely diminuendo. His husk graced the Khan's gur for 7 dawns. Epistle unambiguous, fraternal fracture invites filial forgetting. Jamukha's echo fades from the secret history thereafter, erasure's elegy. The Khan invoked him nevermore in 4 decades chronicle. Silence, the supreme scourge, betray the bond, and the bond buries you unremembered. Erasure for oath breakers, for battlefield apostates, cowardice's cadre, the sentence was sepulchral, merging man with matrix. Recumbent, pinioned by pegs through Carpus and Tarsus, you sprawl starfished on 1211 sward, post-yelling's melee. Flight felled you, blade jettisoned, panoply peeled, sprint to sprawl. The horde heeded, vigilance was their vein. Now, you and 300 apostates tessellate the turf. Hoofbeats herald the host, 50 destriers, perhaps more, in phalanx of finality. The lead mount claims your neighbor, shin yields with crack, ululation sharp, then abdomen, a gurgle usurping the gasp. Your sequel, hoof on tibia, millstones metric, bone to butter. Agony arcs neural lightning. Contralateral follows, then basin, profundity buckles. Ventral impact, diaphragm denies air, viscera violin in the vice. The beast lingers, recalibrates, proceeds. You savor copper, gut gorge ruptured, yet lucidity lingers. Protocol spares the pate till penultimate parades. 5 equines, 10, 15, 12th numbs nether, 16th splinters cage, each shard a stiletto to lung. 19th, solar eclipse by shod iron on brow. Cranium contorts, capitulates internally, lumen to blaze, scarlet, slate, void. The lead plowed, 300 fuse to furrow, terra's tapestry. Allegory acute, recoil from fray, and Frau reclaims you, compacted to the clay you once coursed in cravenness. Rarer still, the apex atrocity, reserved for regicidal whispers, enacted bis in Genghis's epoch, for equine engines of excision. You, assassin with venomous viroblade, breached Ogedi's perimeter ere sentinels seized you. Now, denuded, hempen tethers truss limb to livestock, each hawser humming 50 feet to harnessed hell. Cruciform on clay, the signal descends, quadruped surge synchronous. Anatomy equivocates in extremis. Tension tithes, coxa disjoints with pop. 30 seconds of symphonic shred, fibrils fray, then fulminate, limb liberates in sanguine fount. Awareness abides. Sinister sequel, then dextral delamination. Torso tenanted by twain, hemorrhages him. Arms auctioned in 40-second spasms. Core and crown alone, the terminus tolls third or fourth, 3 to 4 minutes of calibrated carnage. Rashid al-Din attests, twice alone under Genghis, both amid assembled legions for regicide's requital. Post, 1235, consulate scheme slumbered 3 decades. Essay sovereignty's severance? Sovereignty reciprocates in quartets, equine quartet, limbic quartet, cardinal quartet, nullities nadir. None was profligate, each etched ethos. Silver's sacrament for Silk Road sins, perish by purloined patina. Cauldrons catharsis for coffered cupidity, ablution in ardor. Dorsal dissection for Anda's apostasy, vivid voidance of vows. Cranial cathedrals as caveat, milestone monoliths of mortality. Carpeted crush for coronets, sanguine sparing for the sacrosanct. Equine evisceration for empire's endangerment, divisions due dividend. The golden horde's hegemony hinged not on horde alone, but horror's harness, a dread so surgical that bastions bartered breath before barrage. By 1279, dominion spanned Korea's coasts to Hungary's hills, 24 million square kilometers, a fifth of Earth's brood beneath the Yaktail standard. Most subjects savored subjugation sans citing a saboteur, whispers sufficed as warden. The query transcends excess. How did dread distill to dominion's draught, the paramount projectile of the Middle Ages? How did such scalpel-sharp savagery sculpt history's hugest heartland? Genius? Gouge? Or the grisly genius of both? Ponder in the comments. If this descent into deliberate darkness has claimed you, step into the crimson cloister, you are now a crimson historian. Subscribe, for shadows this stark shunned soliloquy, they crave chroniclers. Witnesses to the willfully obscured. Lingering, yet unlinked? Confess your reticence below. We devour every dispatch. This is history unvarnished, not laurels alone, nor lance thrusts, but the meticulous machinery of menace that midwifed monarchies and recast rules rubric.